Good evening, guys. Okay, so what I wanted to do is give a quick rundown on my shift for Saturday the 5th, which is just a couple of days ago. In my last video, I said that it had a quite difficult shift. The reason being is the shift I just finished was to do with a cardiac arrest of a gentleman. It's my first major, I suppose, blue light call. When we usually have blue light calls and it says this person's having problem breathing, they've got problems with their heart, we can't always guarantee that's exactly what it is. So generally the paramedics who come with me have said, okay, it could be that, but a lot of times it's because that's all the information we have, and 111 have put in as much details as they can because of the drop-down menus they use. Okay, not necessarily is it that exact problem, and there's nothing wrong with the 111 call takers. It's just the software that they use. Okay, on this occasion, the information was correct. When we got to the property, we climbed up some stairs, and my colleague paramedic was in the room first. All the family were downstairs, and we saw this gentleman on the bed, and his mouth was up, open, eyes closed, agonal breathing is what the data pad came back to us for, and it was correct. He was actually in major cardiac arrest. Now, my colleague said that within seconds of him coming through the door, his arms are coming up into like a, I can't think of the name of it now, but when someone's in cardiac arrest, heart attack, their hands or arms are either up here or they're like pulled together. For some reason the body does that. Okay. The face of this gentleman went very purple and then went bright red. So something was obviously drastically wrong. What we had to do is, within seconds, is grab this chap from his bed straight onto the ground on the floor, because obviously we can't do CPR when he's on his bed. We tried to do it gently as possible, but he was a very heavy gentleman. And to be honest, the shock of him, his back on the floor, gave it a bump, and it updated his heart a little bit, I think, from what my paramedic colleague was saying. So we had another paramedic come through. So there's two paramedics plus me as the ECA. My job was to be the gopher, in effect, by grabbing all the equipment which the two paramedics needed in order to save this gentleman's life. The first thing they did was to ascertain that he actually was going through a cardiac arrest. They got me to go and grab the defib, oxygen cylinder, and other bits and pieces to help them. When I went down, I got into the went back in the ambulance, grabbed my bits and pieces, came back upstairs again. Now, at this point, remember, the family was downstairs, very upset, not showing what was happening. I couldn't talk to them. I was wanting to say to them that, we were working on him, but we had no time to talk to them. That's a really sad thing about when you're in an anxious situation. So I went upstairs. I placed the defib pads on the gentleman's top and side, because the first time it's been my first cardiac arrest. I was really, really nervous, really anxious and worried that I was doing the wrong thing, and my mind went blank. Through all the training you do, because when it's like, I've got to have this, can you get me this? You kind of go, oh my gosh, I can't remember stuff. Luckily, my two paramedics were very clear, very calm, and they said, right, Frey, we need the defib now. And I opened up the defib, I looked at these pads and thought, my gosh, which way do they go? Even though clearly marked, this is for the top and this is for the side. And with the gloves on, it was sticking everywhere, so I had to calm down, but in the end, I had to do it quickly. So we put the defib on him. The gentleman didn't have a clear airway. The paramedic used a laryngoscopy to try and get into his airway. He couldn't see one very well, so we had to use a bougie, which is a very long, thin sort of plastic tube. So I grabbed his bougie for him. He then passed it through the esophagus of the gentleman. Then he was given an airway cannula to put through, which they palpated to make it enlarge. And then I held on the bougie. I said I had the bougie, pulled it down. I took the bougie out. Unfortunately, the gentleman then began to vomit up his, I guess, his stomach contents. But at the time we didn't know what it was. It was red and it looks like it was bloody. It was just coming out of his mouth. It's horrible. Because of pressure or something. So they changed it to an eye gel, which is another type of airway opener. So I had to get the eye gel out. I had to lubricate it up quickly, give it to my paramedic. Paramedic then opened it up and pop it through to him. And this is within seconds of each other. It was so fast. I still think I was looking in my bag and thinking, I know where the stuff is, but I can't see it. It was right in front of me, and I just couldn't see it because I was panicked. You know, getting the oxygen mask out, I knew where it was, but I couldn't think which one he needed. So again, very gently, very persuasively, but calmly. Right, I need this. Get it there. Right, pull it open it up, stick it on the oxygen, turn it on to 15, give me the thing, and pass it through to him, you know. So then we had to do the CPR because his heart stopped. My colleague did the CPR, the other paramedic was doing the bag veil mask. I was then giving him the cannulas, giving him the strips to cover up the cannulas. One thing I've learnt on that one is don't just open up and pass him the cannula, give the whole lot and give it to him, because then he's got the whole lot there. When you are in less need of time critical action, you can pass them gently and that sort of thing. But when someone's in major cardiac arrest, he said just grab everything that I need for cannulation or everything I need for intubation and just shove it into his hand, and then he'll deal with it. Because paramedics learn to do cannulation and everything on their own. We as ECAs are, I suppose, termed as gophers in that sense, but we are so important to make sure that they get the right stuff very, very quickly. So this gentleman was expiring his contents of his stomach, which then I think probably went into his lungs as well, sadly. I'll explain to that later on what possibly could happen then. But we had his oxygen. He came back. He was ROSC. Now those people who are going through training, you'll go through someone going through a cardiac arrest, and then what happens is that then when you come out of cardiac arrest, you go into ROSC, which is the heart starts beating again, and they're becoming conscious, or their body has kicked in the vital signs. Yeah, not necessarily able to breathe themselves, but they're better than they were. So he went into ROSC after about 5 minutes, thankfully. We then had to put him into a carry chair to take him down the stairs. Now, as I was walking up to the room, I was always looking out to see how easy it was to extricate any patient. This particular building had a a stair lift kind of thing. Very, very tight, very, very narrow going around the stairwell. And we couldn't bring an actual stretcher into the place. So again, with the people downstairs, we had to pop this gentleman onto a carry chair whilst he was still very unwell, and then pull him up, take him down the stairs, little by little, just about getting him through the turning of the staircase down to the ambulance. And then we popped him onto a bed where we had to connect up to the machine on the ambulance as well, that takes his blood pressure, takes his vital signs, make sure they kept the defib attached to him. We also contacted the hospital that was going to take him to prepare them for an emergency. When we got to the hospital on blue light, of course, it was just amazing, because as soon as we stopped, the doors of the A&E department opened up and it was straight through to resus. Everybody knew what they were going to do. We had like 20 people around us just to wait for this one patient. And there was doctors, there was nurses, there was healthcare assistants, there were students. They all were there for this one patient. My colleague then did ATMIS, which was the handover to the doctors, and then they were then sort of set up to then take him over from that. So my experience of that was, I suppose, a quiet panic, really. My colleagues were like a swan drifting down the river, nice and elegant and very quiet and very composed, but their feet were going very, very fast. The thought processes were going very, very fast. But my own thoughts were above the water level, so I was kind of panicking a little bit. What did I feel from that? I felt, as a student, I thought it was a good experience for me that I need more exposure to. I've also taken from that I need to learn and remember a lot more what's in those bags, because every time you start duty, you have to make sure you know what's in your bags. So you know when a paramedic says, "Oh, pass me the eye gel, pass me the lubricant, pass me the EMA device." You need to know where these things are. In training, I was fine. I knew where they were. On this occasion, because it was panic, because it was time critical, my brain went a bit blank, and I was really upset with myself that I let myself go to be able to not remember certain things. My paramedic was really good. He said, "Okay, it's your first ever cardiac arrest." He said driving was okay. Could drive a little bit faster on blue lights. I was going 15 or 30 limit, but that's something which I have to improve upon, because my own safety and my colleagues' safety is paramount as well. And just to remember, to try and take bits from this last incident and try to make sure that I remember something from it for the next time, because I'm not going to remember everything. There's so much equipment that we have in those bags, and it's difficult to remember straight off, but in time, with constant exposure to the same sort of problems, then I suppose one will remember them. Now, as I said before, paramedics have 3 or 4 years training to be able to do a cardiac arrest with cannulas and with drugs and with oxygen all on their own. And so we as an ECA are there to help them, but as a second-hand sort of thing. It's still nice, though, to think that you actually have a part in that patient's welfare. I don't know if that patient has survived or not. I have a feeling from talking to my paramedic colleague that potentially he wouldn't have survived. The reason being is when you have a cardiac arrest, as long as you're seen within very, very short time and have a defib on you and oxygen and everything else, it's more likely that you're going to survive it, or the patient survive it, not you personally, sorry. But if, from what we heard, this chap was having breathing problems for a good 30 minutes. When we put the defib on him, we don't know how long he was down for. And the fact that he regurgitated his stomach contents that potentially had gone into his lungs, that will be fatal, because you've got all the acid in the stomach then going into the lungs, and it's going to burn all the way down, and you can't come back from that. Once it's in there, it's gone. So I really felt for the family who was downstairs. We were able to talk to them before we left to say where we were going and what we've tried to do. Yeah, it was excuse me, it was quite emotive scene, I suppose. So, my thoughts do go to that family and to the patient, really. But I'm hoping this experience is going to help me attend my next patient quicker, with more confidence and a little bit more knowledge, because the thing with an ECJ job is that once you come out of training, you learn the job. You're learning the job as in the training department, but it's all very sterile. It's all very safe. If you do something wrong, it doesn't matter. If you get the pulse wrong, if you get the blood pressure wrong, that doesn't matter because you're in training. Yeah. Once you're out of training, that's when you start learning the job. That's when you start learning to do your OSCE very, very quickly. Your scene safety situation. You learn to do your primary survey within seconds, rather than doing it within, say, 5 minutes as you do in training, sort of thing. This has not put me off. In fact, it's more motivated me to learn quicker. Okay, this is only my 4th or 5th shift. I've been told I've been very hard on myself, but then that's the way I am. I need to push forward and make sure I always get better and better. So, yeah, I'm going to take forward all the things that I feel that I could improve upon. I'm going to take forward the paramedics' feedback on what I can improve upon. And I'm going to, hopefully next time, be a little bit more savvy, a little bit more knowledgeable, a little bit more quicker with that particular emergency. I mean, there's never ever going to be the perfect the perfect treatment, I suppose. In the way of the perfect scenario. You're never going to go there thinking, I know exactly what I'm going to do, the patient's going to do X, Y, Z, I'm going to do this, and then we're going to be shoving mustard to the hospital. There's always going to be a curveball, there's always going to be a problem. Like this chap was vomiting, This didn't happen in training. I didn't have a Rassasiani vomit on me, with, a couple of centimetres up. I didn't have the problem that we didn't have the correct tube, and we had to go back to the ambulance and get some more equipment, because training is very sterile, but it's needed to allow you to prepare medically your mind for the situation. but psychologically, the only way to prepare is by doing the scenario for real and to learn by it, if that makes sense. Probably not, because it's too late now, I'm very tired. But there you go. So I'm hoping that's give you some sort of insight of that last call for me. Again, apologies for not being able to do it straight away. It was a 7 to 7. I was very, very tired when I finished. I had 4 hours sleep after that. So I've had to go through my mind of the scenario, what happened, and to feel right with myself before I could then talk to you guys. So tomorrow I'm on a 10 till 8:30 p.m. I'm on what's called a PSV, which is a patient service vehicle. It's basically double ECA manned, but we can go to Cat 1s if needed, but it's less likely. We have a basic first aid kit on there that we can transport patients to and from hospitals and things like that. So I will do a few more videos of those particular shifts, and I will let you know what happens. Okay, thanks again for your comments, everyone. I really appreciate your feedback. Thanks for the questions, and yeah, you guys who are about to go for your interview, James, I think you're one of them. Thanks for the email. I will keep my fingers crossed for you, and hope for the best. Alright, so everyone else, I wish you good night, and I'll check you out tomorrow. Take care. Bye for now.